All right, boys and girls, this is Math Message 3-10, the main math lesson of the day. And in this lesson, we are going to understand the turnaround rule in multiplication. We've learned the turnaround rule before in addition, but now today we're going to look at it in multiplication. But before we do that, let's get out some whiteboards, or let's get out a piece of paper that you can work on. And I'm going to give you a few problems that I want you to work out to get your math brains going. So let's look at this first problem. It says you divide 25 rulers equally among 5 groups. How many rulers does each group get? So go ahead and pause this video, work this problem out. You can draw a picture to help you. I want you to find the answer and write a number model to go with it. All right, boys and girls, so you divide 25 rulers equally among 5 groups. So I've got these 25 rulers. Okay, and I'm dividing them up between 5 groups. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now I'm going to take my rulers. If I don't know how many, if I don't know my division facts well enough yet, or I don't know my multiplication facts well enough, I can just take those rulers and pass them out one at a time. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25. Okay, so now what would be my number model to go along with this problem? What was I doing? I took 25 rulers, I divided them into 5 groups, and how many rulers does each group get? Each group got 5 rulers. Okay, all right, let's look at another problem. This problem says you use 100 paper clips to make chains with 10 paper clips each. So how many chains do you have? So let me think about this problem here for a second and kind of explain what it's saying here. So I have 100 paper clips. Now I'm taking them and I'm making chains. Now it says that the chains have 10 paper clips each on them. Okay? So I want to know how many chains do I make if I have 100 paper clips. Go ahead and pause the video. You could do a picture. I want to see a number model and your answer. Pause the video. All right, so if I were drawing this picture out, I would make my chain here, and I'm just going to write a number 10 on it. I'm not going to try to draw 10 paper clips or even 10 dots. I know there's 10 paper clips on there, so I can maybe put 10P, so I know that's 10 paper clips. Okay, now I'm going to make another chain with 10 paper clips, and another chain with 10 paper clips. And I'm going to keep doing that until I use all 100 of my paper clips. So I'm going to have to count as I go. So 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So right there, I used up my 100 paper clips. So how many chains do I have? So I just need to count them. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. My number model, I had 100 paper clips. I was dividing them into groups of 10. So how many groups or how many chains did I make? I made 10. When I label that with my units, I got to remember what I'm looking for. Is it 10 paper clips? Now it wants to know how many chains do I have. So 10 chains. Okay. All right, let's look at our next problem. It says you have 50 marbles and you put 5 in each bag. So how many bags do you have? Go ahead, pause the video. All right, so I've got these 50 marbles. And I'm going to put those 50 marbles into 5, or not 5 bags, I'm going to put 5 in each bag. So I'm going to put 5 in this bag. I'm going to put M for 5 marbles. That way it keeps it straight in my head what I'm doing. And then I'm going to put another bag with 5 marbles, and another bag with 5 marbles, and I'm going to keep doing that until I run out of marbles. Remember, I've got 50 marbles. I got to count and keep track. So I've got 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. All right, let me double check, make sure I counted that right. I got kind of distracted with something out in the hallway. 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, 50. Good. All right, we got it. So now what did I do in this problem? I took 50 marbles, I divided them into groups of 5. Not 5 groups, groups of 5. But I want to know how many groups did I make because it wants to know how many bags. My bags are my groups. So count my groups. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. 10 what? 10 bags. All right. So now that your math brains are all warmed up, let's look back again at what we're going to be doing today. Today we are going to be understanding the turnaround. Now, the turnaround rule in multiplication, that is. Okay, we're used to the turnaround rule in addition. So, for example, if I know that 5 plus 2 equals 7, then the turnaround rule in addition says, well, I can turn these numbers around, 2 plus 5, and that still equals 7. So addition has the turnaround rule, and so does multiplication. Okay, I can turn those numbers around. And let's look at that so that we can prove that to ourselves today in this lesson. All right, here's what I want you to do on your paper. I want you to pretend that you have 8 apples for sale and you want to display them in an array. So you're going to kind of like set them up on your little fruit stand so that they're in a nice display. I want you to see how many different ways you can arrange them. So create arrays to show your thinking. Now remember, they have to be in equal rows or columns, okay? All right, so go ahead, pause the video, and you can just draw. So if you were drawing your apples, like you can just draw your little dots for your apples and arrange those 8 apples in as many different ways as you can. Go ahead and pause. All right, so when I did my apples, this is what I came up with, okay? I made this display here where I had all 8 of my apples into one long column. And then I had this one here. So, well, let's talk about what that would be. So tell me what the number model would be for this array. So in this array, I have actually 8 rows with 1 in each row. So 8 times 1 equals 8. Okay, but then I have this display right here that looks a lot like this one, doesn't it? Except it's just kind of turned around. What would be my number model for this array? Here I have 1 long row with 8 in that row, and that equals 8. Okay? What do you notice about these 2 displays? They look the same, don't they? Except one is taken and just literally, if I take it and turn it around, it makes the same thing, doesn't it? That's kind of like why we call it the turnaround rule. Okay? And when you look at your factors, here I have an 8 by 1, that equals 8. And here I have a 1 by 8, still equals 8. So I turn those factors around, just like I did with my 2 plus 5 equals 7, and 5 plus 2 equals 7. Same thing with my multiplication. I can turn those factors around and it's still going to equal the same thing. All right, let's look at my next 2 displays. So this display here, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 rows with 2 in each row. So I have a 4 by 2, or 4 times 2 equals my 8 apples. And then look at this display over here. Here I have 2 rows with 4 in each row. And of course, that still equals 8. So it's the same thing, it's just turned around. Okay, still equals the same thing. We still have the same product. It's just our factors are turned around. I have a 4 and a 2. I have a 2 and a 4, but they both equal 8. Okay, so let's do a little bit of work in our workbooks with this turnaround rule. Go ahead and pause the video, and you're going to turn in your workbook to page, let's see what page this is, page 88 in your workbook. All right, and here's what it wants you to do in that workbook. It says roll a die twice to get two factors. Sketch an array using those two factors and record a number sentence to match. Then you're going to switch the factors around and record an array and a number sentence to match that. So for example, let's say I roll a 3 and a 4. Okay, I'm going to make an array. I'm going to make a 3 by 4. So I have 3 rows with 4 in each row, and that equals 12. Then I'm going to take that same array. I'm going to switch those factors around, and now I'm going to make a 4 by 3, and I'm going to draw that out. That means now I have 4 rows with 3 in each row, and that still is going to equal 12. All right, so boys and girls, I want you to go ahead and finish out this page yourself. If you have dice, roll the dice and come up with your two factors. If you don't have dice with you, you can just kind of make up some factors. But I wouldn't make the numbers any bigger. Keep the numbers below. Let's see, how many dots do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Don't make your factor any bigger than 8. That way you have room on your dot paper. All right, boys and girls, I'm going to let you go ahead. This is going to be a quick, short lesson, and you can go ahead and do this page on a multiplication rule. Remember, this is called the turnaround rule.